what's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. The truth shall set you free, and hot damn, did Vivek set us free during the debate. 22,000 retweets for this, 86,000 likes, 11 million views. Holy cannoli. Vivek's opening statement, a lot of people really liked a lot of it, but I mean, what we liked the most is that he called out the corporate press to their faces for lying about Donald Trump. It's very important. You should just call them out and you should make them apologize. Do you apologize for this lie? Do you apologize for it? Really, really valuable moment. And this, of course, led to a lot of people fact-checking Kristen Welker. Yeah, she totally did promote the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. This from Breitbart. Yes, Kristen Welker promoted Trump-Russia collusion hoax often. True, Welker, while she was at the White House correspondent for NBC News, routinely promoted reports from her network and other networks like New York Times that falsely suggested Trump colluded with Russia. Really, really important to pin these people down and say, yeah, you're a liar. Now, while the debate performance got a lot of attention and a lot of aplomb for Vivek, he had done this the same weekend, a day before, with Jim Acosta, CNN. And it went about as well. Jim Acosta didn't like it very much, but also important to note, like, this is how you do it. Watch.
Let me get to some issues. This week, Trump opened up a rally in Texas with the rendition of the national anthem sung by some of the January 6 rioters who broke into the Capitol. He went on to call them hostages. Do you agree with Trump that January 6 prisoners are hostages?
I think many peaceful protesters on January 6th should absolutely not be in prison. We have a dual standard of justice in this country. One standard applied
but Trump is using the word hostages. Do you think that they're hostages?
For the prior 2 years.
Isn't that irresponsible to call them hostages
my view is,
with what's going on in Israel right now?
I mean, Jim, let me just be really clear about what's irresponsible as it relates to coverage of Donald Trump. And I think that your network and others like you owe some accountability here. From the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that never was, to the Hunter Biden laptop story that was actually real before people before the election were told that it was false. So I think that the real accountability here belongs to the media. Speak the truth, admit accountability where you were wrong.
The question is whether you agree with him calling them hostages.
Were denied constitutional rights. Well, I think I agree with the spirit of it. The spirit of it is those people, many of them have been denied their constitutional rights, and many of them who were peaceful,
they're going through the justice process.
They're being prosecuted. The rule of law to them than somebody else. Well, I don't think that many of those prosecutions are just. My view is if you're using one standard of political prosecution for somebody because they have political views different from your own, that's not justice. That is injustice, and that's why I've said that anybody who is a peaceful protester on January 6th, for those peaceful protesters, they will earn a pardon from me on day one, and I will stand by that, Jim.
All right, and you made waves this week for the deal you said you would cut with Vladimir Putin to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Let's listen to this.
The most important element is Russia exit its military alliance with China. We make a hard commitment that NATO not admit Ukraine to NATO.
Tell me on this deal.
And then here we'd freeze the current lines of control.
What?
Freeze the current lines of control.
You would give Putin everything
I wouldn't
he's
give him
stolen?
anything. I would freeze the current lines of control.
Why would you cut a deal with Vladimir Putin? Why would you trust Putin to keep his end of a deal?
I don't trust Putin, but I trust Putin to follow his self-interest just as he can trust us to follow ours. And the fact of the matter is our engagement in Ukraine has been a disaster. Everybody in Ukraine would still tell you it's now stalled to a standstill. Tens, if not hundreds of thousands of deaths on both sides. Now the U.S. entering greater risk with Russia. The first time we've never had a nuclear non-proliferation agreement in place with Russia.
But
and secretly, many U.S. officials are beginning to admit that there has to be a deal.
Doesn't that show some naivete on your part?
We're going to have, to the contrary, the naivete is the pointless wars that we've spent in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is Iraq 2.0 unfolding again. Jim, if the people who are advocating for this war a year and a half ago are already meekly beginning to admit, even those you'll have on this network, beginning to admit that it was a failure, it has not met expectations, thousands and thousands of lives lost, greater risk, hundreds of billions of dollars later. This is a pointless war. So cut the losses now.
The Ukrainians have surprised a lot of people by taking it to the Russians. Why would you halt that progress?
The fact of the matter is the eastern parts of Ukraine that are occupied, well, the progress has already halted. The fact of the matter is, and you know, you can even Read what the Ukrainian general just said this week. He first admitted that it's reached a standstill. So let's be sensible, do a reasonable deal that allows Ukraine to come out with its sovereignty intact, but pull apart the Russia-China military alliance. That's what nobody's talking about. We are driving Russia further into China's hands. We need to be focused on pulling them apart and make a commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine to NATO. That is a sensible deal. You mark my words, this is where this is going to go eventually. We might as well go there now before more lives and more dollars are wasted.
Well, that to a lot of people sounds like a win for Putin. But
Whew. Jim Acosta's seen better days. He is relegated, of course, to a weekend show on CNN. And maybe that's because he spends the rest of his weeks dying, getting really bad hair dye jobs. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. I'm not sure. But Vivek cleaned his clock, and he's done this before on CNN. Love him getting booked on CNN. It's interesting to watch. When Vivek was called a 9/11 truther, said no. It's just worth asking question. Like, do you just believe everything you're... What world do we live in now? Where the libs just believe everything the government says forever, right? I think he explained himself wonderfully here. Like, be a skeptic. It is our obligation to be skeptics and to believe people once the evidence proves out those beliefs. Otherwise, you're going to live a miserable life. Check this out from CNN.
A report in The Atlantic that you gave an interview to, you said, quote, "I think it is legitimate to say how many federal agents were on the planes that hit the Twin Towers. Maybe the answer is zero. It probably is zero for all I know, right? I have no reason to think it was anything other than zero, but if we're doing a comprehensive assessment of what happened on 9/11, we have a 9/11 commission. Absolutely, there should be an answer the public knows the answer to." Explain to me what you meant there.
This is really, it's funny. I mean, The Atlantic is playing the same game as CNN. It's funny. What I said is, on January 6th, I do believe that there were many federal agents in the field, and we deserve to know who they are. On 9/11, what I've said is that the government lied. And this is incontrovertible evidence, Caitlin. The government lied about Saudi Arabia's involvement. There was a Saudi spy named al-Bayoumi who they lied, and the government lied, and the 9/11 Commission lied. We know that because declassified reports in 2021 revealed that al-Bayoumi was indeed... What's that?
Yeah, the report that President Biden declassified.
Yes.
But your quote here, are you telling me that the quote is wrong
20 years later,
here?
yeah.
But are you telling me that your quote is wrong here because it says how many federal agents were on the planes at the Twin Towers?
Yeah, when I actually, and this is just lifting the curtain on how media works again, I asked that reporter to send the recording because it was on the record. He refused to do it. But we had a free-flowing conversation. The truth is there are lies the government has told about 9/11, but it's not the ones that somebody put in my mouth. It's the one that I articulated, which is that Saudi Arabia, absolutely, their intelligence was involved in 9/11. And that's a difficult thing you're not supposed to say. The facts back that up. Separately, as it relates to January 6th, same story all over again. There were federal agents in the field. I think they've lied about how many there were. And we, the people, deserve the truth, despite the layers of distortion that exist in the media to prevent us from getting it.
You're saying that you were misquoted here. So we will take you at your word. Yes. You're saying that you were misquoted here. But you were asked another time recently about whether or not 9/11 was an inside job. This is what your response was.
9/11 inside job or exactly how the government tells us?
I don't believe the government has told us the truth. Again, I'm driven by evidence and data. What I've seen in the last several years is we have to be skeptical of what the government does tell us. I haven't seen evidence to the contrary, but do I believe everything the government told us about it? Absolutely not.
That's two questions.
The 9/11 Commission? Absolutely not.
I mean, Vivek, I think people look at those comments. They look at what you said in The Atlantic, which you say you were misquoted. They look at comments that you've made about the Federal Reserve adding zeros to media companies' bank accounts. And I mean, it looks like you're floating conspiracy theories with this defense of I'm just asking questions.
Well, when you actually quote me, those are my words, and I stand by them. So somebody else quoting me, putting words in my mouth, I have a problem with. But those words I stand by. You want to know why? Because we literally know the FBI, the 9/11 Commission, the U.S. government on down, told us specifically that Saudi Arabia had no involvement. 20-plus years later, quietly declassifying documents showing that not only did Saudi Arabia have involvement, it was a Saudi intelligence agent that received two of those terrorists that crashed planes on 9/11, killing Americans.
But the question was, is 9/11 an inside job? And you didn't say no.
Caitlin,
That's what I think people are looking at.
Caitlin, you know what's really funny? You literally just played that, and you could play it for your audience again. He said, or do you believe everything the government has told us? And my answer was, I do not believe everything the government has told us
but you see
because
the
they
point.
lied.
The point is
and
that
I know
it leaves
this game
the door
comes up,
open.
Caitlin,
It's
every
not
time
a
there's
game.
an outsider who comes
It leaves the door
in.
open, Vivek. It leaves the door open, and someone who's a
Caitlin,
9/11 truther
we
looks
have a
at that and
government that
says, that's
systematically
exactly what I
lies.
believe. You
That
think the
was a-
government's
that was
lying
a
about
comedian
9/11?
I think the government has systematically and for a very long time lied about 9/11. And I think I'm the
What
only
part
presidential
exactly
candidate
are
who's
they
told us
lying
the
about?
truth. Saudi Arabia's involvement. It is absolutely true.
But you don't
that Saudi
think that
Arabia
9/11 was an inside job,
involved in 9/11.
correct?
Of course not. And I've
Okay.
never said it. But the
But
media
that's a pretty
filters do
simple
create
answer.
a lot of
It's not
falsehoods.
a media filter.
but
You have to
that's the
stop
truth.
blaming the media. I'm asking you about comments that you have made.
And I'm telling you that the comments I made, the ones you just played, are indeed what I believe, which was not that 9/11 was an inside job, but that Saudi Arabia absolutely was involved, and our government for 20 years lied to the American people about it.
There was an entire
That is
9/11
hard
commission
fact,
report
actually.
on this.
Yes, and it lied, and it was false. And in fact, you know where that's coming out, Caitlin? There's now a case, a federal case in the Southern District of New York, where the government of Saudi Arabia is being sued by victims of families.
know, the
That's why
families,
this is
yes.
resurfacing itself. It is relevant, and it turns
But
out
there's a difference
in those
in asking
declassified
questions
documents
about Saudi
that the government
Arabia's
lied.
involvement and the government's involvement, and then pushing this idea that what your comment about who was on the plane and then was 9/11 an inside job where you did not say no earlier. That's why it's important to clarify those comments, because otherwise it feels like you're towing the line when it comes to conspiracy theories.
Caitlin, I am guilty as charged that I do not follow the establishment super PAC donor-approved script on these questions, but I am speaking truth, grounded in fact, at every step of the way, and that's what's really elicited something of an anaphylactic reaction of the kind we saw in 2016 against a different candidate. But this time I'm going to be grounded in principles and conviction, not just vengeance and grievance, which is exactly
you say you're
how we
grounded
will
in evidence.
reunite
That's
this
just
country.
simply what we were asking for. But Vivek Ramaswamy, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
Go back on CNN. Come on. This is the battle. This is the battle. Got to continue. Got to keep going. And we have to establish something really important, which is that the only way that we are going to get a better media is if we make them uncomfortable. If we ask questions and hold them into account as much as they hold us into account. They've lost in a world where everyone has a cell phone and everyone has access to X and everyone has access to social media, then we're all journalists, actually. And so it's really important for all of us to be truthful and to be able to be fact-checked. And, well, that's actually all of our jobs now. A free press is everyone with a cell phone, an internet connection, and X. Not sure that's what our founders envisioned, but that is what it is. And it's a beautiful thing. It's good to gut check them. And we'll have a better country for it. Remember, the truth shall set you free. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel to be set free. See ya.